Welcome to the Superintendent's Update. Today, along with myself, Brian Whiston, Superintendent, we have Director of Business Operations, Sam Barna. Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
Sam, you know, I've had you on the show twice, and both times we have to talk about bad news. So
yes,
hopefully sometime during your tenure we can talk about some good things.
Yes.
But at the beginning of this school year, the 2012-13 school year, before you came, we cut millions to start the school year. Mid-year, we had to cut another $5.2 million because of some things that happened that we didn't plan for, and some things that happened that we had no idea were going to happen.
That's correct.
And then a month after that, you came in and told me we're still another $1 million short.
That's
Why
correct.
and what happened?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of reasons. And one of them is our dual enrollment's up, which is a good thing. Obviously, a lot of our children are taking advantage of the fact that we have classes that we're offering outside of high school and really preparing for college. So that's a benefit. But again, that's on a financial standpoint. We need to make up for that from a budgetary standpoint. And so we're going to have to add approximately $200,000 to the budget to make up for that increased enrollment. Another thing is actually the class size stipends. Last summer, the class size stipends weren't budgeted actually at all. So that represented about $440,000 of costs that needed to be incorporated into this year's budget.
And just so we explain that real carefully, we pay stipends to classes that are over class size loads as an incentive for us to try to keep class sizes as low as possible.
Precisely.
All right, so we got class loads, and the other one you mentioned, what else do we have?
Actually, we have legal costs as well. You know, we've had actually some settlements and what have you, and just legal bills in general that, again, these are things that are unforeseen that you really can't budget for accurately on a year-to-year basis because you don't really know what's going to hit. And so therefore, approximately $200,000 as well is attributed to legal costs. And then really finally is basically the building and site. We have obviously older buildings. We have some parking lots that needed to be repaved, some roofs that needed to be replaced, and therefore that represented about $175,000 to $200,000 of spend as well, which again, we didn't originally budget.
So now that we're already into the second semester, we can't really cut anything that way. So what we're going to have to do is shut down any discretionary spending.
That's
so how
correct.
are you going to do that?
Several ways. So what we're going to do is actually close off our purchase orders quickly. And so what I mean by that is basically whoever within the district inputs a requisition for a purchase order will have that ability to do that, but only until April the 19th, which is a lot earlier than in prior years from my understanding. Number two is we're going to shut down the purchase cards, the P cards they call them, that most of the administrators use. So we're going to be reducing spend that way as well. Second tier is, or I should say third tier, what we're going to do is basically eliminate the ability for people to put in a check request. So they're going to have to do some planning before we put in that stipulation, and they're going to basically have to ensure that whatever they're going to ask for going forward, they're going to have to do so relatively quickly. And so that's really the means that we're going to obtain some of that $1 million of benefit or cost cuts, if you will.
So the school district in my 5 years, unfortunately, have been making cuts every year.
Unfortunately.
I look forward to the day where we can actually stop that process.
Sure.
And the reason every year we've had to cut is the state has not given us any new money.
That's correct.
For the 5 years, our foundation has actually been cut 8.1%. We were over $9,000 per pupil. Now we're at $83.32.
That's correct.
An 8.1% cut. Plus, we lost a lot of categorical funding on top of that foundation allowance cut. And every year, your costs are going to go up. Utilities go up, gas prices go up.
Retirement costs.
Retirement costs have shot up.
Absolutely.
Not anything that we can control here at the local district.
No.
It's a benefit provided by the state, and then they send us the bill. So our costs are going up every year. Let's be honest, though, the state has helped us a little bit on the increase in retirement costs.
True.
They have given us some new money to help with some of that, not all of it, but some
offset.
of that cost.
Yes.
So that's why I think people are frustrated, as we are frustrated, that we're cutting every year, and they're wondering, why do we have to cut? Well, I came here 5 years ago. You know, our budgets were in the 180, 190 range. Now they're 160. Again, we have to live within the means.
Absolutely.
So whatever money the state gives us, we have to live within that means. But not only have we been impacted by a less state funding investment in schools, obviously there's been an issue with property taxes.
Yes.
And property taxes, the value of homes going down, meaning that we're bringing in less money also from a property tax from our businesses.
That's correct.
The homes go to the state of Michigan, gets redistributed, but we've been taking in less money from our businesses.
That's correct.
As well. So, which is in a way a good thing for our businesses, but a bad thing
for us.
for us in the school district. So we continually cutting because of the lack of investment that the state of Michigan is putting into our education. So what are you beginning to put the budget together for the 13-14 school year? What are you looking at for there?
Well, unfortunately, again, as you stated, it's the revenue is the big question mark, and unfortunately the big takeaway. And so we have $1.4 million of best practice funding that we received last year. That basically is something that it was a one-time commitment, and that's part of the reason we had an issue this year. Well, next year we're going to have to factor that in. Basically, we're going to have to cut that out. So $1.4 million right off the cuff. In addition to that, we have several cost cuts and other revenue that we're not seeing. Another example of that is best practices revenue. This year we were able to obtain $52 per pupil for our best practices. Next year we're not going to really count on anything because really it's going to be going away, that categorical funding and that best practices revenue that we've seen. So those are two huge hits in and of themselves. In addition to that, we have retirement costs. As you stated, the state has done a great job to a certain degree and reduced our cost. They've capped it. However, they haven't capped the increases. We're still going to have increases, albeit they're going to be smaller increases than what we've had in the past, but still increases. Hence, cost cuts for us.
In addition to that, we have some intention. We're spending down our fund balance intentionally for 1 year, but it means we have to cut that so that we don't continually spend it. And the board has allowed us to borrow a little bit of money from the fund balance to help us balance out, and that does have to be paid back.
That's correct.
I mean, our savings account for the whole school district right now is around $10 million.
A little over. That's correct,
right?
Yeah, about 10.3.
But when you look at a $169
million budget in terms of revenue.
$10 million is not very much.
No.
In fact, we have to borrow every year $5 to $10 million
That's
to
true.
meet payroll because the state doesn't pay us those first few months, July, August, September, right?
That's correct. What happens is there's a lull, if you will. And so in other words, we have payroll and we have other expenses that are obviously year-round. And so even though our revenue is cyclical, so therefore hence the borrowing, as you mentioned.
So each year in the past, the district used to invest $4 to $5 million each year into facilities and to handle emergencies, boilers, roofs, parking lots, those kinds of things that happen. This year, I think we're only budgeting around $1 million to $2 million.
It's a little bit less than $1 million, actually.
Yeah,
yes, because we just don't have the funds, appropriate funds, to do that. So
what are our options if we're not able to take the funds to fund our facilities? What do we need to look at?
To me, there's only one direction, and that is to truly go for a bond. We need bond financing, and again, we have an aging infrastructure. Our buildings are beautiful buildings overall. It's just that we haven't been putting the required necessary funds in order to keep them at the top. Jeff and his staff do a fantastic job. But again, these are aging buildings. We need to spend more money. And again, we're using general fund money right now. We can't do that. We can't continue to do that. Otherwise, we will continually face cuts going forward.
And we continue to look at the ways we spend our money. I know we had Plant Moran in, and they did a study, showed we did very well. There was the Bridges magazine who did a report that said our students are performing higher than expected, and that we're one of the best school districts in the state in terms of the value of the amount of money we spend. So outside people are telling us that we're spending our money very wisely.
Absolutely.
We have an outside audit every year.
Yes, we do.
That comes in and looks at how we're spending our money, and we've got a good, the top audit that you can get this year. So we're spending our money wisely. Doesn't mean we can't always look at ways to save money, and we do that.
We are always doing
that.
And
I know you and your team are talking to vendors that we buy things from and telling them they have to sharpen their pencil and provide us the same services for less money, because we're getting less money.
That's absolutely correct. And again, it also is looking at contracts and potentially extending contracts in order to witness a savings, not just cost cuts from the vendors specifically. So we're basically just opening up, whatever venues are possible on the vending side to ensure that we get the most bang for our buck, the best value.
I know we just did a contract this last board meeting where the contractor hasn't received a raise since 2004 or 5, something like that.
Right.
We're doing the same business with them that we did in 04, 05 at the same cost.
That's correct.
So we do appreciate our vendors stepping up and helping us reduce our cost. And it's not just that vendor, it's a lot of vendors.
Absolutely. They recognize the financial constraints that we have as a school district here in the state of Michigan.
And also good news from our bond rating company. They rated us very well.
Yes.
Again, one of the higher school districts in the area or in the state
AA3.
in terms of our bond rating, which recently saved us $1,060,000.
$1,060,000, and then the net present value was just under $1 million. So fantastic, the savings that we experienced. So,
and again, that isn't $1 million that we as a school district save, but it's $1 million less that our taxpayers have to pay in order to pay off the debt. So that's good news for our taxpayers.
And I look forward to doing more of that in the future. Absolutely. That's the good news.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, we'll continue to work with you on the budget, but bottom line, our top priority is always going to be the classrooms, getting as much money. Usually they say that school districts should spend, 75% on classrooms and on personnel, and you telling us we're at what percent now?
Oh, 86% actually on personnel costs in terms of the total general fund.
So 86% on personnel costs, which is really teachers in the classrooms. Absolutely. Administrators, yes, we pay for administrators, but again, if you compare us to other school districts,
very small.
Our cost of administrative costs is very, very small.
Absolutely.
So most of it does go to classroom, either teachers or support services, which means we're not investing in our facilities, and we'll have to have further conversations about a bond with the Board of Education and the community.
Well, we're the third largest district in the state of Michigan in terms of pupil population, so obviously a little over 19,100 students, so 32 school buildings. So yes, we're large, so we're definitely a product of our size. So,
all right.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam, for being here today, and thank you for watching this budget, finance, bond update with Sam Barna and Brian Whiston, Superintendent of Dearborn Schools. Have a great day.
Thank you.